There is a quiet blessing in doing what must be done before the hour strikes, before the world knows that the moment has arrived. If you have finished the work, made the change, or obeyed the whisper before October 11th, 2025, then congratulations are not just a formality, they are the echo of something sacred. For you have joined that unseen fellowship of those who act when no applause is offered, when the reward is hidden in the mist of faith, when obedience feels like walking through fog toward a light only the soul perceives. Such people are never loud, they are builders of unseen altars, workers in divine silence. There is a rhythm in creation that honors timing as much as action, and those who act before the dawn break are those who trust the promise rather than the proof. You may not have known it, but your readiness before the day itself is the language of heaven, a sign that you understood what others missed. That time is not merely a sequence of numbers, but a test of heart. When you move early, you say to eternity, I believe. You say, I do not wait for signs. I act because I have seen enough light to take the next step. It is no small thing to have done this before the date was announced, before the visible world changed its face. You have aligned your motion with an invisible calendar, one written not on walls, but on the fabric of destiny. There is power in that alignment. It hums beneath the surface of your life, shaping what will come after. Consider for a moment how history honors those who prepared before the flood, who packed before the storm, who planted before the rain. Their wisdom was not in their foresight, but in their faith, the quiet certainty that obedience before confirmation is the highest kind. If you have done this, whatever this was for you, before the 11th dawn of October, then you have stepped into that same pattern. Perhaps it was a choice to forgive, to leave, to start, to release, to believe. The form matters less than the timing. You moved before the clock demanded it, and that single act separates the watchers from the doers, the believers from the doubters, the prepared from the lost. For timing, in the spiritual sense, is not about speed but about sensitivity. Some hearts are tuned finely enough to hear the song before it begins, to sense the trembling of change before the wind shifts. If you listened, if you obeyed, if you acted, then you are among them. And let me tell you, such souls become lighthouses in a world too accustomed to waiting for certainty. They are the ones who write the first line of new chapters. Before the others arrive, they have already built the fire and warmed the place. Their preparation creates the path for those who follow. They do not know how much they alter the course of others, but heaven counts such obedience as treasure. It is not measured in applause or acknowledgement, but in the quiet turning of destiny's wheel. You may not even see the fruit of your obedience yet. The field you planted may still look barren. The choice you made may still look costly. But there is a law older than all empires, a law that rewards early faith. When others are rushing to catch the moment, you will already be standing within it, calm, steady, and radiant. Think of the traveler who packs his lantern before the night arrives. The world laughs, calling him anxious or excessive. But when the darkness falls, it is his light that becomes the guide for all. Such is the mark of those who have acted before October 11, 2025. You are not merely early. You are chosen to bear light before it is needed. The path you cleared in faith will become the highway others will use in gratitude. Perhaps you have felt unseen, even foolish. Perhaps no one congratulated you when you began, for they did not know what you knew, that the hour was near, that preparation was sacred. Take this as your confirmation, not from man but from eternity. Your obedience has been witnessed. The angels mark not the size of your act but its timing. They write in the margins of time, this one trusted before sight. So, congratulations, but not in the common tone of celebration. Congratulations as one greets a soldier returning from a quiet victory, a gardener who has planted in drought, a servant who has waited in stillness. The world may not yet recognize what you have done, but heaven already has. The difference between those who act before the appointed time and those who wait until it is comfortable is the difference between seed and dust. You have chosen to be the seed, and though it is buried, it will not remain so. For the time you acted was not random. It was prophetic. You met the divine schedule not by calculation, but by harmony. That is what faith does. It tunes the soul to move in rhythm with eternal timing. When that happens, miracles appear not as interruptions, but as confirmations. And so, if you have finished the work, if you have stepped forward, forgiven, started, or released something before October 11, then you have, without knowing, obeyed the whisper of destiny. You are among those rare souls who move not by fear but by trust. The moment you acted, heaven began to rearrange circumstances, to open doors that were locked, to prepare outcomes that will soon appear natural but are, in truth, miraculous. It will not be long before you see it. For the difference between early obedience and delayed obedience is the difference between walking through an open gate and finding it closed. You walked through while it was open, and now all the grace that waits beyond that threshold is yours. The beauty of such obedience is that it leaves a fragrance long after the act itself. It blesses more than one generation. It teaches without speaking. If you did it before October 11, then you did it when it mattered most, when it was hardest to see, when it was easiest to doubt. That is why this congratulations is not merely for completion, but for courage, not for outcome, but for timing. For the calendar of heaven does not measure days as we do. It measures the alignment of hearts. You aligned yours before the moment, and in doing so, you became part of the divine story unfolding now upon the earth. There are few who understand how precious that is. There are fewer still who have done it. But you have, and that is why this day marks not an ending, but the quiet beginning of everything that was promised. It is a strange blindness of mankind that we look always for the grand, the thunderous, the shining moment to prove our faith or to measure our progress. We crave the stage and despise the silent corridor. Yet the truest weight of a life is never carried in the roar of applause, but in the unnoticed gestures that change everything. If you have done something small before October 11, 2025, something so ordinary that you almost forgot it yourself, then you may have touched eternity in disguise. The world may call it a mere act of kindness, a habit, a decision without consequence, but heaven names it seed, and seeds, though hidden, are the hinges of history. Every revolution begins with one invisible surrender. Every miracle begins with one small obedience. The mind of eternity does not count by magnitude, but by meaning. And so what looks like a pebble in your hand may be the cornerstone of a new age. When you forgave someone who did not deserve it, when you rose one morning and chose hope instead of despair, when you spoke softly instead of cruelly, when you gave when no one was looking, those moments were the breath of heaven moving through your human form. No angel's trumpet marked them, yet they altered the very air. You see, the great machinery of providence turns on such hinges, silent and small, and those who think only grand acts matter have never understood the way light enters the world. It always begins quietly, a whisper, a flicker, a decision made when no one was watching. The mighty oak never announces itself when it is still an acorn, yet it already holds within its shell the shape of centuries. So too your unseen goodness, before the appointed time, holds within it the outline of divine reward. Perhaps you thought you were late, or that your act was too little to matter. But heaven measures differently. To the eyes of the infinite, the smallest spark is worth more than 1,000 intentions never kindled. A single act done in love, before recognition, before the noise of confirmation, becomes a key that fits the lock of eternity. And you who acted before October 11 may have unlocked something far beyond your knowing. Somewhere, someone's heart may open because of your unseen obedience. Somewhere, a door may swing wide because you were willing to turn a hinge no one else saw. The mystery of divine order is that it hides power in plain sight. The bread broken in secret feeds nations. The prayer whispered in weakness shifts the weather of souls. When the world measures success, it looks at outcomes. What can be counted, sold, displayed. But heaven measures intent, timing, and the courage to act when the act seems too small to matter. That is why your quiet choices are not small in the eyes of eternity. They are seismic. You may never trace the full circle of their consequence, for by the time the fruit appears, the seed has already forgotten itself. And yet, that is the way of all that is real to vanish in order to live. Do not mistake small for insignificant. The universe itself is built of unseen particles, each invisible but indispensable. Remove one, and the cosmos trembles. So too in your life. Each humble act before October 11 was a cosmic alignment, a particle of faith placed exactly where it was meant to be. You have, in your own quiet way, helped the world hold together. You have kept the balance where others saw only routine. Perhaps you were kind when you could have been cold, patient when you could have been proud. Each choice was a hinge, silent and strong. And though no one applauded, heaven did not miss it. There are laws that govern the seen and others that govern the unseen. The law of the unseen says this: every small obedience bends the future toward light. It cannot fail, because it is rooted in the character of the eternal. You may never see the door it opens, but someone will walk through it. Perhaps long after you have forgotten this day, another life will breathe easier because you obeyed early, quietly, faithfully. That is how eternity turns, slowly, silently, on the hinges of small acts. And so, if you find yourself wondering whether what you did mattered, know this: it did. The world will always mock the small and chase the grand, but the author of time writes history in lowercase letters first. What you did before the 11th of October may not have looked like a victory march, but it was. It was the still motion that steadies the turning of the age. And one day, when the story is told in full light, you will see that it was not the thrones or the crowns that shaped destiny. It was the small hinges of courage, humility, and love, turning quietly in the hands of those who acted before they were asked to. There is a rhythm that governs all creation, an invisible heartbeat that hums through the stars, the tides, and even the fragile pulse of human hope. Those who live by faith learn to sense it, not as a sound, but as a knowing. The world frets about timing: too early, too late, too uncertain. But heaven keeps a different clock, one without rush or delay. If you have waited, worked, or obeyed before October 11, 2025, and felt the tension of silence, know this: the door was never closed against you. It was waiting for its appointed moment to open. Faith does not force doors. It stands before them in quiet certainty, hands steady, heart ready, knowing that when the latch turns, it will do so with perfect precision. The door that opens for the faithful never creaks or stumbles. It moves with the gentleness of inevitability. Many grow weary in waiting, thinking the silence means denial, but the delay is never denial, it is design. The hand of eternity does not tremble, nor does it forget. What you have done, what you have prepared before that date, will meet its moment exactly when it is meant to. For every act of faith sets time in motion, and time itself obeys the one who ordered it. You may not see it yet, but all the small obediences, all the prayers whispered without witness, have already begun to assemble the doors opening. There are hinges being set in place even now, unseen and unstoppable. When the world calls something late, heaven smiles, for it knows that perfection wears the face of patience. The flower does not bloom in winter because it was denied spring. It waits, resting in the soil until the sun's appointed hour touches it, and then, without struggle, it unfolds. So too will your faith. The moment it seems that nothing is happening is the moment when everything is aligning. For the faithful, the waiting itself is part of the miracle. It refines, deepens, and tunes the heart to recognize the sound of the latch when it finally moves. And when it does, you will realize it was never random. It was always precise. Do not mourn the days of silence, nor curse the seasons when every door seems still. Heaven's architecture is deliberate. Each hinge must be balanced, each key prepared, each corridor cleared. And sometimes, the time before the opening is the time required to strengthen you for what lies beyond. The delay is mercy, not neglect. It allows your spirit to grow sturdy enough to carry what your faith has requested. For the door that opens too soon can crush the unready. But the door that opens in its rightful hour carries no sorrow, only purpose. Perhaps you have felt forgotten, standing before a promise that did not yet unfold. But faith is not measured by how long you wait. It is measured by how you wait. Those who wait with complaint miss the music of destiny's timing. Those who wait with reverence begin to hear the ticking of eternity itself. Every second of your patience was recorded, not as wasted time, but as worship. The faithful are never waiting in vain, they are being aligned with precision. And when the door opens, and it will open, it will do so without resistance. You will not need to force it, for grace never needs pushing. It moves freely when the hour arrives. You will look back and see that what felt like delay was protection, that every "not yet" was a "soon," spoken in the language of heaven. You will see why it could not have come earlier, for earlier would have meant smaller, lesser, unready. The timing was not late. It was exact. So if you have been faithful before this date, if you have planted when the ground was hard, prayed when the sky was silent, believed when nothing moved, then you have already entered the rhythm of divine timing. You have tuned your heart to the eternal clock, and when the door opens for you, it will not surprise you. It will simply feel right, as if it had been waiting for you all along. Because it has. The universe was designed to open for those who act in faith. Not early, not late, but precisely, gloriously, perfectly on time. There is a peculiar dignity in those who act before the appointed hour, a dignity that is seldom recognized by the world, but unmistakably observed in the quiet courts of eternity. To move early is not merely to anticipate circumstance, nor is it to act out of haste or impatience. It is the deliberate, courageous, and humble obedience of a heart tuned to a deeper rhythm than that which the world perceives. Faith, in its purest form, is never content to wait for the signs that others demand. It knows that the world's measure of readiness is not the measure that governs heaven, and it dares to step forward when no one else will, when the hour seems too soon, when the voice of caution whispers to stay still. Those who move in such a fashion lay foundations upon which miracles may later unfold. They are the unseen architects of destiny, placing stone upon stone, before the first light of recognition has touched the horizon, shaping what the world will one day call providence, timing, or divine intervention. Consider for a moment the nature of miracles themselves. How often are they perceived as sudden, as astonishing, as though they emerged from nothing? Yet even the smallest miracle is never born of mere chance. It is the culmination of countless acts of unseen faith, small and quiet, done long before the event itself becomes visible. The seed of faith planted early grows roots in the soil of preparation, strengthened by patience, nourished by trust, and shielded from the winds of doubt. When the season of revelation arrives, it appears to the world as a sudden bloom, a flash of wonder, a work of beauty and power. But beneath that bloom lies a foundation constructed by hearts who dared to obey, to act, and to believe before the world told them it was time. That is the sacred role of early faith. It is the first motion in a chain that leads inevitably to the extraordinary. To have acted before October 11th, 2025, is to have stepped into this very current of preparation. It is to have recognized that miracles are not merely gifts to be received but fruits born of intentional movement, of courage exercised in quietness, a vision held steady while others wait for the evidence of what is yet unseen. Such faith is patient yet active, humble yet confident, quiet yet powerful. It does not demand recognition, and it does not seek applause. It moves because the heart is persuaded by truth that transcends circumstance, and because the spirit is willing to obey the call that reason alone cannot fully justify. In that obedience, one lays the first stone of what may appear later as wonder, triumph, or deliverance. Faith that moves early has another remarkable quality. It teaches others without speaking. Those who act only when the moment has fully arrived may witness the miracle and rejoice, but they do not understand its source. They see the effect, but they cannot trace the cause. The early mover, however, becomes a silent teacher. Every step taken in advance, every decision made before certainty, every act of trust in the unseen, is a demonstration of courage and vision that others may follow when they are ready to see. This is why timing is so critical. The miracle is never simply about the result, but about the heart that prepared for it, the heart that moved in faith before the world knew the need. The unseen labor, the quiet sacrifice, the moment of decision before the hour. All of this is the invisible foundation upon which the visible miracle is built. One might ask why such preparation is so often invisible. Why is it that those who move early receive no immediate recognition, no public accolade, no assurance that their action was wise or sufficient? The answer lies in the nature of true faith itself. Faith does not rely on approval or confirmation. It relies on a deeper knowledge that there is a right time, a divine order, a pattern beyond human sight that governs all outcomes. To act early is to trust that this pattern exists, that the unseen will catch the steps of the obedient, and that the labor performed in advance will bear fruit when the appointed hour arrives. It is not a matter of reward but of alignment. Aligning one's heart with the rhythm of eternity, synchronizing one's will with the movement of grace, and stepping forward when all signs of encouragement are absent. Faith that moves early also carries within it a quiet courage that transforms the ordinary into extraordinary. The act itself may seem insignificant, a word spoken, a door opened, a choice made. But when placed within the framework of divine timing, these acts become pillars. The small decision taken in advance, the prayer whispered before the need becomes urgent, the kindness extended when the heart is not yet full of hope. These are the foundations of miracles. They are the stones upon which the impossible is built, the first brush strokes on a canvas that eternity will complete. The quiet hand that sets the lever in motion for events that no mortal eye can yet see. To act early is to trust that the invisible is more real than the visible, that what is not yet apparent is already forming, that the labor of today will carry the harvest of tomorrow. It is a radical and audacious trust, for it requires believing without evidence, obeying without applause, and persevering without immediate reward. Yet this is precisely how miracles are made, not by sudden inspiration alone, but by steady, faithful movement that begins long before the world expects it. And when the appointed hour arrives, the miracle unfolds not because it is sudden, but because it is prepared. The hand that reaches to meet it finds the way already cleared, the soil already tilled, the foundation already laid. If you have acted before October 11, 2025, then you have already begun this process. Your faith has set the cornerstone. Your courage has driven the first nail. Your obedience has poured the foundation. You may not yet see the structure fully formed, and you may not yet witness the flowering of what your early action has made possible. But the miracle is already on its way, and it will rise upon the bedrock you have prepared. You are not late, nor merely fortunate. You are a builder of eternity. And the beauty of this truth is that it is eternal. No act of early faith is ever wasted. No step taken in trust is ever lost. And no courage exercised in advance is ever forgotten. Faith that moves early is, therefore, both a privilege and a responsibility. It places the heart in the position of readiness, aligning human will with divine purpose. It transforms ordinary action into sacred labor and infuses life with a profound dignity that the world cannot confer. Those who practice such faith understand, perhaps intuitively, that miracles are not merely the product of chance or luck, but the natural outcome of prepared hearts. And they know that each step taken before the appointed day strengthens the very foundations upon which the extraordinary will be built. So, to have moved early, to have obeyed, to have acted in quiet faith before October 11, 2025, is to have become a participant in the grand design of eternity. It is to have laid a cornerstone that will support outcomes far greater than can now be imagined. To have whispered the first note in a symphony that will one day resound across the fabric of time, and to have placed the first seed in a garden that will bloom when the sun of revelation finally shines. In all this, there is not only accomplishment but sanctity, not only preparation but blessing, not only movement but miracle. Faith that moves early is the foundation, and upon that foundation, all that is wondrous and eternal rests securely, waiting for the appointed hour to reveal its fullness.